Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip here with Chip. Jeff is on special assignment still. We will be spending the next few minutes together here talking about exciting stories as usual. And a couple things to preface it with, first of all, is it slated for a breakout? Is there something going to happen in the next bull run that could send it to the moon? And what is the moon? Well, let's just go for an all-time high. Anything past, what is it, 385? Let's hit $4. Let's say $4. And also, too, it looks like the SEC may have conceded something very important, which is incredible, and it's a beautiful win. But yeah, it looks like they've conceded a serious point. And then there's OpenSea. There's people that get it about the NFT world and people that don't get it. NFTs really got their big prominence and start over there on OpenSea. It's the biggest by far. You can lump almost every other exchange, and OpenSea crushes them all as far as volume and traffic. However, they made a bad move, a very big misstep. They're hearing it from the community. We're going to dive into that too, because I think that's gonna cause some serious pain. I expect them to reverse it. If they don't, we'll see what happens. And then there's some more dust up about what's been going on with this intellectual appeal. And people are just still all over the board with it. You guys ready to get this puppy started? Can we get started? Can I hear a yeah? Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome everybody. Good to see everybody in here very early. Good morning to the On the Chain family, the best and brightest. Drop where you're coming in from, city, country, whatever you want to drop. Even if there's something your city's famous for or something you don't want it to know, people it's famous for. And as we jump into day, I want to see, do you have your coffee ready? Because today's episode of On the Chain is brought to you by, that's right, Badass Yetis Noir Symphony I'm drinking today, which is it's a 6-bean blend, which is really delicious. Also, too, I've got here, which is my other favorite one. Well, they're all really good, but I'll tell you this one too, the Obsidian Bold. If you like a really nice dark French roast, this is the one to have. But anyway, got your coffees ready, got your drinks ready, whatever you got. We're gonna get started. Good to hear from everybody here. Go ahead and tweet this puppy out. Let's roll, shall we? So let's jump into this very first story here. This first one comes to us. You're like Michael Miebach. Who's that? That's none other than the CEO of I want to say Mastercard. Yep, CEO of Mastercard over there, and he is put out this nice little tweet. He says, we're partnering with several central banks to help them research new digital currency projects. It starts with understanding what they want to achieve with the technology, then building in transparency, consumer privacy, and stability. That sounds really good to me, because with any technology, understanding what they want versus what we the people want, will the two sides mix? Central banks, again, to go trip through that is that the central banks, third-party entity, usually not attached to the government anyway. The Federal Reserve here is a third party. Nobody knows really what goes on there. No one's ever seen their balance sheet. Nobody knows what they've been investing money in, because there's a lot of debt that's paid on the money that's borrowed, because that's how our systems work. The federal bank was, central bank was set up on a debt-ridden system, and this is how they most work. And they usually have a shelf life of 40 to 50 years. We're running a little over 100 years on the Federal Reserve. And I say let's return to Andrew Jackson days, when he got rid of the second central bank after 20 years after their charter ran out. Funny thing was, they got smart, and the next time they didn't have a charter, right? They didn't have an expiration date that could be revoked. So it's way too much power. If you want to see why the economies are crashing around the world, look no further than central banks. But let's help them achieve with this new technology, transparency, consumer privacy, and stability. Sounds great on paper. I know I might be the lone voice out there, because when I compare my notes to everybody else out there, I'm like, okay, I'm lockstep with Warren Davidson. Everyone's hating on Davidson. Everyone's been hating on me for having this stance. They're like, Chip, it's just a simple technology and this and that. I'm like, well, yeah, my point goes back to the fact that I don't like central banks. So I don't like the whole centralized anything. Let's get to decentralization. It's like, if we keep playing that centralization game, do we ever get to the part where we're going to get into decentralization? No, we just keep allowing to print more money, and it's like it's another outlet. What's it really going to be backed by? There aren't any assets there. Every government in the world is in debt. So what are you going to do? You're going to spin up something new, and it's going to be back to what? It's going to still be an instrument of debt. How is that going to work? So that's really, I mean, it goes beyond the privacy stuff. Let's start at the central bank. My goal is to get rid of them all, right? The US could be the very first one. Be interesting to see what happens in 2024. Be interesting to see what happens to the Federal Reserve in that banking system. But let's get through this tweet. Gosh, that was a long-winded wrap around there. But he goes on to say that we're working towards the goals with the new CBDC partner program with Mastercard teaming up with a handful of key blockchain /Web3 /payment players so we can learn from each other. This part of it's very good. I think the more people you get involved in the conversation, the better. And he says that I'm excited to, with this new collaboration brought together, lists Ripple first, the Edema group. This one here is Fluency. Then you've got Gasecki and Devrient, Consensus. We know our old pals Joe Lubin over at Consensus. Consult Hyperion and Fireblock. So it's an interesting assortment, if you will, of people that have been brought together here. So, you know, there are a couple of the names in here you might recognize, a couple of them you might not. I'm sure everybody recognizes Consensus. Obviously, that's Joe Lubin, and we know Joe Lubin from, well, gosh, we've covered him for the last couple of years. All of this whole ETHgate scenario tied back all to I like this one, Chippings. That's Consult Hyperion, but it's funny their symbol there, or whatever their tagline there is. There. So there's a whole little sort of a thing that they put together here. And again, you know, it's good to have a conversation. It's good to pull people together. I think it is. I think it's a healthy conversation. And again, we really don't know outside of what China's done. We've just heard a lot of stories. We've heard, now I kind of like I'm more interested in a stable coin. If you think about a stable coin, it has all the same properties, right? The interoperability, all of the same key aspects that you would imagine that you would have where a CBDC has programmability. Now it's I don't know. It's the jury is still out because the programmability, I'm not sure if it exists actually on the XRPL. Obviously, they would be using a private version of that because they're not going to have all the transactions public. That's not going to happen. So there's a private version of it. And so again, after a lot of the research that I've done, I've not been able to 100% determine what that looks like. But what we do keep hearing a lot of is the privacy, because that's the one thing that we're all concerned about. Right. I saw a disturbing video recently, I think it was yesterday, where they were showing a supermarket, and as everybody was moving through the supermarket, it had a little like number attached to them, and you could see, I think it was a cafe, you could see how many coffees they purchased the last month. They purchased 9. You could see who your good customers were, and then somebody took that and put that up to a city view, where everybody walking around inside of a city, and anytime anybody goes anywhere, you could track anything you wanted to them, right? Tied to your mobile phone, tied to the person, you could see that, tracking cameras. So this whole idea of privacy is eroding. It's eroding fast, and people, you know, I have a good friend who never went on Facebook because he said, you know, I just don't want the privacy aspect of it. I don't want to lose it. I'm like, well, you lose it in a lot of other ways. Like, for instance, you go into a supermarket and you go like, hey, did you put your phone number into, you know, when you're checking out, you put your phone number in because, you know, you might qualify for the discounts, right? And then here in the States, if you go to Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. Whole Foods, we affectionately refer to that as whole paycheck, because no matter when you walk in, you're just going to spend drop a ton of money. You know, it has a lot of the great foods in there. I mean, it's a lot of the, you know, costly foods, I will say that, boxed stuff, but a lot of fresh stuff as well. And the funny thing is, you go in there, and if you want, when you check out, you can show your Amazon. So anything in the store that it's marked and you have your Amazon Prime, you scan your QR code and boom, they're tracking you. They know what you bought. They know how to target you with advertising. You go to a supermarket, it's harmless. You type your phone number and it's like, you qualified for a discount. Well, that's more tracking, right? That's voluntary tracking. There's going to come a day where you're going to have the involuntary tracking. So that's where the whole thing comes in. And when it comes to, and when we think about the interoperability, that's where the XRPL can really come in and make a big difference here, especially when we have, if governments are going to do this, right? They're going to go forward. They're going to put a CBDC in. Some of them are going to be very privacy centric, and some of them are going to be kind of wishy-washy. I believe that most of them out of the gate will probably be pretty clean until they're not, right? So the programmability is there, but when they first come out, they want to look for adoption, and right out of the gate, it's okay. And I've seen Christine Lagarde famously talking about, on video talking about, well, we're really interested in privacy, but there will be maybe some controls. I'm like, some controls. There might be some controls. Like, for example, anything over $300-400, you might want to track. You might want to know what you're spending that money on, and then centralized powers. Central planning's never worked. It's always failed from day one. And, this is where your vehicles are going, right? They want to know how you're going to travel and how you're going to get there, because you may like going the scenic route, but that scenic route doesn't work. So the central planners will have your electric cars programmed to where they can tell you exactly where you're going to go, because the driverless cars, that's what we're going to get. And if you want a driverless car, it's going to be pretty simple. You're just going to let them know and register with the governing body, and they'll be able to program your route. It's like you plug in, hey, I'm going here, and they'll take you the approved way, right? Because this way is easier on the road, because you drive an electric car and you pay more tax now because you drive a heavier car. Therefore, you do more damage to the roads. You see how it's all connected? It's all interconnected in there, however you want to look at it. So jumping back to this, is safe the new sexy? CBDCs, trust in the evolution of money. This is the article over there on Mastercard. And it talks about the central banks exploring, issuing their own digital currencies. Yeah, I mean, how about a stable coin? A stable coin doesn't have any programmability, but no, they're not talking about that. So they do say is a CBDC is essentially a digital version of a fiat currency backed by the government, and therefore far less speculative than crypto. That right there is a bold-faced lie. This is a ridiculous thing. First of all, trying to even conflate the two issues has nothing to do with each other. If you say less speculative than crypto, well, how so? If we're going to compare CBDCs to anything, we're not going to compare it to crypto, because CBDC is not crypto, right? And if we're going to compare it to anything that resembles a blockchain, we're going to compare it to probably the closest you could compare it to is a stable coin, right? So where is the speculation in a stable coin? Are you expecting that stable coin to go up, that you own $1 million and let's say, pick your flavor of stable coin. And if you've seen it on the charts, you've gone and looked at the charts, and sometimes it's just under $1, and sometimes it's like I saw yesterday, one of them was like $1.02. So it's like if you were to sell that at $1.02 across $1 million, oh, you'd make you'd make your 2%, right? But where is the speculation inside of crypto that they're going to compare this to? This is where it goes off the rails for me, and the deep understanding is not there. They're trying to get you comfortable with it. It's run by the government. Trust us. Trust the government. Don't trust a third party or a startup or someone that's trying to solve a problem out there that has been around for 5, 10 plus years. Don't trust that. No. Trust us, because we are the government. And this whole thing, they're gaining momentum. I don't see it gaining any momentum. Exactly, I see the opposite. That even though people may say, hey, the government's going to do it anyway, well, history is going to repeat anyway, too. And if you remember World War II, it was pretty commonplace to put people to death just because of their faith, right? So that was a pretty outgoing thing. And they're like, oh, that'll never happen again. Well, I hate to tell you, but it's happened multiple times. So Pol Pot, it's happened there in the 70s, right? And then there was the photography where they photographed the women and children before they executed them. So over 1 million lives lost. And they said, well, that'll never happen again. But it happens over and over and over again. But like, hey, let the banks at it. What the hell? It's just the technology. It's not a big deal. Why should we worry about it? I don't see it gaining momentum. I see a lot of concerns about it, even for people who are pro CBDC. There is a lot of concerns around the privacy issue of it. It says, there's another stat. It says 93% of central banks are engaged in some form of work on CBDCs, and 4 retail CBDCs are already full live circulation, according to the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, another useless organization. If you ask me, I don't think anybody did, but I'm here to give you my opinion. So there you go, another useless, corrupt organization who has plans for you. They got lots of plans and lots of explaining to do, but what they tell you and what they do their actions actually match what they say. Interesting. So it says there are many questions that central banks need to consider, says Jesse McWaters, who leads the global regulatory advocacy at Mastercard. And this includes the role of the privacy sector in CBDC insurance, security, privacy, and interoperability, such as how a CBDC works with other commonly used payment mechanisms, what specific challenges CBDCs would solve, and whether or not they're even the right tool for the job. I like how they're kind of speculating, but they left the most important part about that out of here, which is which I think they have to hark on a little more, is the privacy. The interoperability, we know that that's covered. The security part, yeah, we kind of know that that's a little bit covered. Issuance, that's another faulty one. We don't know exactly how the issuance is going to happen. And if there's central control anywhere, regardless if there's that type of programmability to a granular level, well, I'm sorry, Jim D, you said the wrong thing in the on the chain chat, and guess what? As a result, we're going to have to, we're going to have to expire your CBDCs, and by the end of the day. So good luck. Hope you can figure out a place to put all that. Sounds silly. I know you're like, well, come on, Chip. That's outlandish. There's no way that somebody would do something so ridiculous like that. Hey, it can happen. So Anthony Welfare, he commented on Michael Miebach's tweet over here. He said, excited to be working with MasterCard on the digital currency and the CBDC projects. Ripple's launch of the inaugural government-issued national stablecoin in collaboration with the Republic of Palau, in addition to work on 4 CBDC pilots. Now, I've said that from what I've seen and what I've heard, and Palau's been very upfront with their stablecoin. But again, this whole idea of a stablecoin makes a lot more sense to me. But when you think about what is the difference between a government wanting to issue a central bank digital currency, right, versus a stablecoin. Now, the actual money that's used, I mean, Palau is small, it's tiny. It's a tiny island nation where I think more than half of the people, or more than that, are expats. They live somewhere else. There's a lot of people that are sending money back to family and friends on the island, but they also use USD, right? So here's a good sort of a example of another country, that's using it, the US dollar as their currency. And here they have side by side a stable coin. I showed you the video. I wish I was trying to find it earlier, which is why I was a little bit late getting started, but I was trying to find the video where they showed the phone, and then they were showing exactly how the Ripple wallet, and they were showing the transaction. It reminded me a lot of using the Sun wallet. I'm sending a transaction over to Papa Bear over there in Australia, and I'm clicking on it, and next thing you know, 4 seconds, 5 seconds later, it has the whole interoperability thing built in. In this case, they're just sending it from wherever they're located back, but you could build interoperability to this in a very simple way and make it easy. So I'm like, the thing we do know about a stable coin is just that. It's backed by either precious metals or some kind of value, right? Whatever that value may be. It's either precious metals or it's bonds, or some kind of value is actually going to back it. So I am more of a proponent of a stable coin. Why? And here's what we're seeing as a real world case. So we've got these two sort of collaborations side by side, right? These two, and right now everything's being workshopped. Nobody really knows. A lot of the people are like, oh, we don't like it, but you're going to do it anyway. It's cool. It's all right. We trust you. In Australia too, they're also heavily exploring the CBDC, and it's not like they set up camps for people who refuse to, get one of these. That didn't happen, right? It wasn't like they set up camps. It wasn't like they took people. So, what could possibly go wrong? Honestly, what could possibly go wrong if you think about Australia getting a CBDC? I would hope to say nothing, because there's a very resilient population of people there that really have voiced their opinions, and it was really amazing to see the stand up and how they're not going to bend the knee. So I was really happy to see that over the last couple of years. But it's going to be interesting to see which one of these wins out. Will it be a stable coin the pilot program they're running in Palau right now, will that be the dominant force? Will it be, because the digital currency already exists, right? We already have this. You can't, I've talked about this example multiple times. Everyone shows up at the bank today and just want to pull out $100, you're going to collapse the bank. There's not enough fiat there. There's not enough fiat to cover all of the actual so-called money that exists, the value that exists in USD or, or yen or, the Australian dollar or the pound. It just doesn't exist, right? But why are we being tricked and told that, oh, no, see, you don't understand here. The CBDC is where we really want to go with this thing. You're just missing the whole point, Chip. You guys don't know. What are you talking about? The CBDC is where we want to go. What do you guys think? Do you think this pilot that's happening in Palau right now, do you think the governments might end up trending more towards a stable coin, or you think they're going to go full force into issuing the CBDC? They do have different properties. Stablecoin is just that. It's tied to backed by value. If you think about a CBDC, there is that programmability, that programmable aspect of it. And if you saw, Concedes is involved in this, and also Ethereum has been heavily involved in the production of a CBDC. Ripple gets a lot of flack for why is Ripple doing this? Well, I hate to tell you, but it's also the Ethereum Foundation is behind a lot of this, and I would say probably as many, if not more, conversations are happening around that. So anyway, that's interesting. Who do we have in the house here? I saw Papa Bear pop in here. Let's see, Hans here. Hans says, what if CBDCs is a psyop for us to be happy with stablecoins and then USD peg stablecoins is their ultimate goal? Yeah, I mean, like I said, the stablecoin itself, the thing is that anything can be turned on and off, right? Anything can be tracked. So I'm not saying the stablecoin is a better solution, but it depends who's running the stablecoin. If the government's running it, how much different is it than a CBDC? Doesn't have the programmability built into it, but doesn't matter. It's everything is tracked, right? It's tracked on a private blockchain. So if you register, they know who you are. You can still cut you off. They can still do that, but they can do that today. They did it in Canada. Truckers said, hey, we're not happy with the way things are going. And they're like, well, great. You don't have a bank account anymore. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate you. Let's jump through this next story here. What else do we have here? In the grab bag today, Jeremy Hogan put this out. I cannot tell you, since Twitter, I should say X, since X started allowing people to monetize, and everyone's like, I made $7,000 last month. So what does that encourage them to do? Well, it's encouraged them to get as many eyeballs, and how that rev share works, that revenue sharing works, is you get as many people in the comments or making comments, and any of the ads that are displayed either in the comments of the people who are making, people put a comment in there, and as you scroll down, and there's 600 comments in there, there's multiple ads, you watch an ad, that's what you're collecting the revenue share on. So now people are making money and monetizing. So with the booms and the, breaking news, everything's breaking. It's so now it's turned it into is it's turned the X platform into just a mess. And on top of all the bots, it's not a good thing. And then it should have been as public, I don't know. But anyway, so Jeremy Hogan says this: are misleading headlines responsible for crashing more than other crypto? Wait, crashing more than crypto? I don't know what that means. Or I think he's saying, are these misleading headlines responsible for crashing crypto, or are misleading headlines responsible for XRP crashing more than other crypto? Or crashing more than other crypto? Got it. Which one? And look at this headline here. The judge grants the SEC leave for appeal Ripple litigation after landmark ruling, as many saw a huge win for crypto and XRP. This couldn't be more wrong. It's in Yahoo. It's completely nonsense. There was no appeal granted in the litigation. And when they said they saw a huge win for crypto and XRP, what they're referring to is XRP not being ruled not a security, which has nothing to do with this in the slightest. This is complete nonsense. And I'm seeing this everywhere. So it used to be that, well, there's a couple of lesser known crypto publications. The YouTubers all know them. Once in a while, we'll throw them up there for hype, but there's a couple of them. I don't need to name them, but we know who they are. You guys know who they are. And they always have these outlandish things or these, these clickbait headlines, and you kind of read in there and you're like, okay. But now we're seeing it from the mainstream press, right? We're seeing it from the likes of Bloomberg. We're seeing it from the likes of Yahoo. This is ridiculous. So they're putting it out there. I have no idea what they're talking about. Jeremy Hogan's, what's causing it? Is it crashing? Are these misleading headlines responsible for it? Yeah, you're like, oh no, they're going to appeal. Oh no, here we go again. Is that why people are freaking out? So, and then we've got this one here. Jeremy Hogan's said, this is, and Jimmy Fallon put this out. He said, the SEC filed its motion to certify interlocutory appeal. And then Jeremy Hogan had to come in here and say, this is the SEC's request to allow it to file an appeal, but it's not an appeal itself. Thank you very much, Yahoo News. It is not an appeal itself. And it's a legally non-appeal motion, nothing to do with an appeal. And no, it's not an appellate in nature. Appellate courts where you would go up to the appellate court to challenge the ruling in the lower court. That is not what it is either. One second, let me take a look. So, and he says, thank you. Why is somebody like Jeremy Hogan compelled to put a message out there? Because of the FUD, because of the nonsense that's happening out there. We're seeing it everywhere. It's getting ridiculous. We went from winning this landmark case, right, as crypto community, and then even one step further, if you own XRP, to saying, great, we don't have to worry about that nonsense anymore. XRP, not a security. Two things have legal clarity: Bitcoin and XRP, right? So look at this here. This right here, friends, is hang on, let me see if let me put this in the right order here. Let me see if I got this right. Let me see. Here it is, out of order. Out of order. Let me put this back in order here. Here we go. So Bloomberg, right, at business on X. Bloomberg puts this article out. The SEC asked a federal judge for permission to appeal her ruling that Ripple Labs XRP token is not a security when sold to the general public. This is utter nonsense. This is absolutely incorrect. And I was like, what in the actual hell is this? None of this happened. It's like, what worries me is that people can't read. They don't even read anymore. Everything's like, oh, because they see interlocutory on there, and they see appeal, and they start flipping out, and they start making all these deductions. John Deaton said, my God, the misinformation that gets pushed is insane. We just looked at two of them. That's just the two that I grabbed. There's a whole crap load more of these out there. But I will say this, though. I will say that the Block, which is usually a pretty good publication, I always thought their logo reminded me a little bit of Star Wars. Looks like that TIE fighter jet, whatever. And the SEC asked the court to certify an interlocutory appeal in the Ripple Labs case. That's what it was. And then we have, their article on it. The SEC asked the court to certify for interlocutory appeal in Ripple Labs case by R.T. Watson. And here we have the SEC on Friday filed a motion with the U.S. District Court in Southern District of New York asking it to certify for interlocutory appeal on its ongoing dispute with Ripple Labs. Ripple has until September 1, thank you, Block, and to file its response to the latest SEC motion. According to the filing, the SEC has already said earlier this month that it planned to appeal the partial defeat in July that sent the XRP token surging and then plummeting again. Maybe it's this news, I don't know. But it's mostly tied to Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, everything goes up. Bitcoin falls, everything falls. In an accompanying filing, that's why I don't care what you think about Bitcoin, but you want Bitcoin to be $80,000 or $100,000, right? It's going to be a healthy market. It's going to spark a bull run. So there you go. But there you have it right there. A little bit of truth going on over there as far as everything else we've actually seen. I'm going to head to the comments and let's see what we've got here. Jim D says, if stablecoins based on AA plus USA long bonds, the government can destroy it, just like the banks, by inverting the yield curves, by increasing interest rates. There you go. There you have it. And this is like the kind of tomfoolery that's going to continue to happen. Doesn't matter whether it's a CBDC or not. Rough Rican says, I hate the thought of a programmable CBDC side of the coin. Hate that they can turn it off and on. You won't be able to do anything about it. Yeah, but that's why do you think they're pushing so hard against crypto? Why do you think they're trying to compare the CBDC to crypto? CBDC, it's trusted by the government. Crypto bad, crypto bad. Crypto bad, CBDC good. Government, this is the government, and crypto is speculative. Nobody knows, used for horrible things. It's just a mess out there. Jesse Monty says, stablecoins have such an expansive tone that it should be a stablecoin, but a central bank is seemingly inevitable because through banks, government keeps control. That's right, but that's where I think a sovereign. See, I'm more for a sovereign currency. I'd rather see something more sovereign digital, where a third party, especially in the U.S., it's never been audited, where you don't know. I don't know if I had to make my speculation in my. If I was to think what was going on, I would think that what we would see is if you actually audited them, that it would be interesting to see what they were actually investing money into. And who knows? Maybe they've got enough to pay off the entire debt. Maybe all the central banks do. I don't know. It sounds like a long shot, but nobody knows. It's a complete misnomer. Nobody has ever said like, well, there's always been a lot of talk about let's have an audit. Let's have an audit. It's like a third. Can you imagine the SEC, for example, regulates companies, public companies, right? They've got a fiduciary to make sure that, and you have to report quarterly and you have to report annually. And so as a public company, you have to do this. Here's a central bank. It's never reported on jack. 110, 15 plus years, nothing. You don't know what their balance sheet is. I think it tell you anything. Like, yeah, what we're doing, we have this. I don't trust them. So we don't know what's going on. A third party run by it with these people that are installed over there. I don't know. To me, it's not a good. Yeah. So Hans Loaded says our main freedom is cash, right? And they're trying to do away with cash in certain areas as well. So Kelly Slade saying quite a few TA people, tech analysis, are calling XRP to visit the 50 cent to 58 cent range. I think BTC plunging took everything with it. I think you're right, Kelly. I think that's really what it came down to. There's other market conditions at play. There's other things going on too, and you combine that together, and it sort of makes a mess. No, Jeff is not dead. Jeff is not dead. Butthead's asking, is Jeff dead? No, he's not. He's just on special assignment. I thought I mentioned he was in the Himalayas, right? So backpack in the Himalayas. So no, he's on special assignment. He will be back soon. He will be back soon. So don't worry about that. I know you guys have to put up with me, but don't worry. I'm looking forward to Jeff's return as well. So that'll be, here we go. Jim D says, I can't even pay cash anymore at some restaurants. Waitress wants to keep all the change at the tip since they don't keep much cash in the register. Yeah, it is getting harder and harder to, with kids, you keep cash in your wallet, and it's like as soon as the cash is in your wallet, it's no longer in your wallet anymore because it's like, hey, Pop, can I have this? Like, shoot, or it goes, it's like, so the card's always there. It's always going on. It's always something there. What else do we have here? Han says that sovereign currency should be backed by a commodity, and countries should be able to trade with each other via bridge currency like XRP. Yeah, and I think that's where it would be. When we think about being more sovereign, tie it back to gold. Listen, decoupling the US dollar from gold was a disaster. And we saw what happened in the late 70s. We saw gas prices soar. We saw, everybody was like, hey, great. You could buy an average house you could buy a new house for $20-some thousand, brand new house. And people were excited because a decade later, that house had almost doubled in price. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm making more money, and my house doubled, and I can sell it and buy something else. But what they missed was the whole inflationary portion of it, where okay, that's fine, but you're making more money. Your dollar buys less. And 97% of the value has been eroded. And you go back to the 1930s, 40s, you could buy a good suit, a nice proper suit for $25, $20, and back then you could buy gold for about 30 cents an ounce. So it was $30. I'm sorry, $30 an ounce. And what's happened? So let's compare it to today. Let's suppose you got that. Let's suppose you have that gold passed on to you through the family. You're going to buy a suit for $30, $25. Anybody buying a suit for that? No, it's hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, if you want a really solid one. If you want one custom tailored, right? And all of a sudden, guess what? That value of that gold. Now that value of that gold can easily cover a suit. It's worth more than that today. So the value of going back to basics and gold and silver, and that's why you see these governments around the world buying up all of the gold. It's incredible, incredible. Yeah, so I see everyone's asking about Jeff, so that's good. Don't worry, Jeff will be back soon. He's CBDCs, pop, pop, pop. Yeah, that's it. That's about the size of that. Yeah, cargo pants and are better, greater than suits. Yeah, I don't know about the cargo pants. This kind of went out a few years ago there, but I don't know. Say that. So let's jump into some other stuff. We got some other stuff to tend to here. John Deaton popped in here and he said that the on link 2, he did a fireside chat with Joe Indesso, and he commented on how difficult it will be for the SEC to prove that Chris Larsen and Brad Garlinghouse were reckless, and not knowing that selling to institutional investors was illegal. It's going to be a tough road, but guess what? The SEC loves digging holes, and they're not aware that they're in a deep one right now. I say bring it on. Let them roll with it. And so who would be comparable to Chris and Brad? Well, how about Vitalik Buterin? Brad and Chris's lawyers might pop in this clip and play for the jury. Vitalik is helping his friends at Ripple, but who'd have guessed it? So this one right here, this was something that, let me see if I can play this one, but this one is, oh my God, John Deaton. You remember this one? Listening to it and knowing about the Torres ruling, it's a very short clip, but let me go ahead and share this real quick. Reshare my screen, which wish I didn't have to do that, but I do. And let's go ahead. If you guys don't hear, let me know. It's a short one. But this is Vitalik Buterin, knowing what we know now with the ruling. John saying, here we go.
Because if you look at what Ripple did, Ripple followed the just sell to venture capital strategy, which is legally easier. Because if you look at what Ripple did, Ripple followed the just sell to venture capital strategy, which is legally easier. Because if you...
Yeah, okay, Vitalik. So it's going to be interesting the way this whole thing sort of like plays out. Let me go back to share my screen the regular way. Yeah, so who knows? Vitalik could be an asset in a funny kind of a way here. And let's go over here. Oh, wait a minute here. Hang on a second. I see what happened. I was like, why is my screen not sharing? Okay, guys, sorry about that. A little bit of technical issues here. So let's get to this one here. CryptoLaw, which also you guys know is CryptoLaw is John Deaton's org over there. Says also the SEC now admits the XRP token is not a security. So it's incredible that the SEC conceded this, right? Like the big thought was like, would they come out? Would they challenge the ruling? Would this go to an appellate court? No, it's actually dead. So if we read this, it says, and the SEC does not seek appellate review of any holding related to the fact that underlying assets are here nothing but computer code with inherent value. They conceded it. It's over. So I don't care what kind of garbage you read out on the internet there. It's done. The SEC has officially conceded. They've thrown in the towel. We won. You know how it was won? It was won by John Deaton and 75,000 other plus of XRP holders. And the way John stood up for in the case, we'll get to that in a little bit. But it's done. It's over with. Don't forget about the garbage you're reading out there. Says it right here. They are not seeking appellate review of any holding related to the fact that underlying assets are nothing but computer code. Well, where did we hear that? It's computer code, right? We've heard that time and time again. We've heard it in other suits, but here, heard John Deaton talk about it, right? This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. This is all you need to do. Now, it's on buried on page 22 of 26, but admitting the fact that it's not a security is phenomenal. But did you see one publication call that? No, sensational headlines. Oh my gosh, they're going at the judge's ruling, and the XRP holders thought they had a big win. You had a big win. You had a monumental case of the century win. XRP, not a security, no digital asset, no token in itself is a security. It's always a scheme, and if you think about it, it's just computer code. guess what? Took a while, but you don't see Gary Gensler going out there anymore and saying, hey, he's kind of been quiet and neutered a little bit, right? We don't actually see him out there talking about, it's so clear, it's so clear. Well, guess what's clear now? Put this one, mark this tweet down there that came from CryptoLaw and John Deaton. Save this tweet. And what I'd like you guys to do right now is go to, let's do this, let's workshop this together, people. But let's go to onthechain.io. And the reason I say that is because after every show, and again, we need more people to sign up. We got a good number of people, but shocking about the number of people who come in here. But if you go to onthechain.io, it's in the comments. You can see it in there. But the reason I say that is because if you go down, if you just scroll down a little bit here, you can see all of our shows, whatever. But just put your email address in there. After every show concludes, you get something that looks like this. I'm going to go into this one here, the last show here. And so actually, let me go into, that's not the one I wanted to go into. Let's go in this one here. So this is 2 shows ago. So here's what you get. This comes in the form of an email. You don't even have to pop over to the site, but where can you listen to the show? It's also available on podcast format. You click in here, select your favorite, go over there. You can watch it, click over here and watch it on YouTube. There's a whole show summary where we detail everything we talked about, so you can kind of see what we talked about. Hans Loaded, our producer, will go ahead and he'll chapter it. Eventually, it's at some point there'll be chapters on there, so you can skip right to the point you want to hear about. Everything we talked about, links to the articles, links to the Badass Yetis. I'm going to throw this in here too, so you guys can click on it on your side and get a glimpse of what that looks like. And Badass Yeti coffee links, everything's there. And then here are all the tweets and things that we talk about. So the tweet that we just looked at, that will be in there as well. So you'll be able to go through there and hit that. So, and then John Deaton piles on here and says, I have to say, there's no doubt that 75,000 XRP holders are the major reason that the SEC is conceding this issue. We fought to have the judge actually write that the token itself is not the security. In fact, it was the first section of our argument in the brief. Here it is right here. Argument, section 5. A, the token itself is never the security. Fellow amicus Digital Chamber of Commerce, DCC, avowed there's no precedent that analyzes whether the underlying asset of an investment contract is itself a security. So this was, and again, this is John Deaton all the way. I don't know if this would have gone this way without John Deaton. I tend to think it probably wouldn't have. But again, 75,000 strong voices that the SEC didn't count on. And what do we have now? They conceded. It's over. Forget about anything you read about there. It's not changing it. And whatever happens, when it does go forward and they do want to go after Chris and Brad because they were reckless, and to bring up Brad Garlinghouse's point of like, how could they have been reckless? I don't know if I have that tweet here. I thought I had it, but let's see. Let me look. I don't think I have it. But Brad Garlinghouse's tweet was like, how could we have been reckless with something that isn't a security? XRP, right? And there were no rules to the road. There was no legislation by Congress. And so good luck in arguing that point. That's going to be a fun one. Here it is right here. It was the very next tweet. I actually had it set up, but here it is. Look, reminder, the request for appeal, even if granted, doesn't change the fact that XRP is not a security. We now know the SEC has conceded that. That's not up for debate or trial, but the SEC continues to claim, then this is Brad Garlinghouse's tweet saying this, that Chris and I acted recklessly in believing that XRP is not a security. Utter nonsense. The SEC's July 13 ruling said that the SEC would be put to their proofs at the trial regarding their claim against Chris and me. We look forward to proving the SEC wrong as a matter of fact and law. Again. Then we have this, Jeremy Hogan, this is funny. The SEC has been forced to argue that the reasonable judges can differ on whether crypto sales on exchanges can even be investment contracts. Fair enough. But then how can it maintain that non-lawyers, Garlinghouse and Larsen, intentionally and recklessly broke the law? This is going to be fun. And again, here comes another loss. Here comes another throat punch for the SEC. You volunteered for it. You're getting it. You wanted litigation, regulation by litigation. Go ahead. You got it. And in this one here, substantial ground for difference of opinion on whether issuers can offer in sales over crypto assets trading platforms that give rise to an investment contract under Howey. Good luck. And then here he's got the makes no sense. Jimmy Fallon. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, but doesn't. But when you come from the land of SEC, where nothing really makes any sense, and you can just argue your point because you're the government, you can burn as much money as you want arguing nonsense and tying this Ripple case up and eroding $15 billion in value. But don't worry about that. You know, there's no retribution for the SEC. There's no recovery. There ought to be something in there where if you go up against SEC comes after you and you battle and you win, in the event that you win, they cover your legal costs because you took them. You basically was a shakedown, and you were in the wrong. So here's Ripple burning through 150 to 200 million dollars, only to be right, only to what Jeff and I said all along that this is a complete ruse, right? This is ridiculous. Mike says that's a nice feature. Yeah, it's a very nice feature. You guys get it. It goes out that way. You can always review it. You're not going to see every show, but it's a nice reminder if you want to know. A lot of people, what I like to see, which is happening, is our podcast, the actual audio version of it, that's on Google and Apple is growing pretty tremendously. So thank you for that. So a lot of people just listen to us on the commutes, like they want to put us on and listen. Take us with you. You don't always have to watch it on YouTube because it's always available in audio form as well. So I wanted to bring this one up as, Jeff and I launched the Badass Yetis here. Very fond of it, very fond of the whole NFT market itself. And OpenSea has officially jumped the shark here. If you know what jump the shark is, Google it. Terminology, it describes when a company or a thing actually it meets its demise. And it goes back to Happy Days, which was a television show here. I think it was in the 70s. It was a sitcom about revolved around a bunch of kids' lives in the 1950s. And there was a character named Fonzie. And Fonzie famously, with his leather jacket, jumped the shark. And that's when that met its demise. So some guy wrote a whole book about Jump the Shark. And it's really comical. It talks about every sitcom and different things throughout a period of time. That one point when they jumped the shark. If you want to see when Bud Light jumped the shark, well, that's been pretty recently. We know what happened there, but they recently jumped the shark. It's that one event that happens. This event is catastrophic, but it's going to be great for other side chains, or I would say other blockchains, NFTs like Solana, Cardano, and the XRPL. So Mark Cuban put this tweet out. Let me throw this up a little bit higher here. He said not collecting and paying royalties. So let me just first talk about what they did. So they are making it optional whether or not they're going to pay royalties. This has been going on for a while, and it's quite alarming. I will do this here. Let me go to let's do this for the discussion of talking point. Okay. Trying to pull this up here. Let's pull this up. Let's pull it up. All right. Was it? We're doing it live. Doing it live. Okay, so for example here's the Badass Yetis project. We got 67% minted. 33% will sell out. We're going to be introducing the White Tribe. The White Tribe is not rare. This is the rarest of all the tribes. This is going to be the highest value. When they're all sold out, I expect the value to rise. And as a creator, Jeff and I, we have anytime, so these are ones being sold on the secondary market. You can see the rarity of what they are here. And so on the Badass Yetis here, so if you look at, they increase in price. So suppose you see this one right here, you want to have it. This Mentalist right here, this one you love. Okay, it's 785 XRP. Well, built into this, let me go into here right here. If you look right there, the buy now price plus a 1.589% fee. This is the fee that the exchange charges. There's a, let's call it 1.6, right? 589, you can see that in there. We did something very similar. So you can see what that takes the actual price up to, from 85 to 97, because the 1.5% fee. Now, that's how the exchanges make money. So on the secondary market, when something is sold, there's in perpetuity, because it's tracked on the blockchain, the royalty goes back to the creators. Now, our royalty on this right here is 5.89%. Let's call it 6% if we round it up. So anytime on the secondary market, this one's very rare. So only because they all haven't been minted yet, this one is a 79 of 3. It tells you the rarity in there. But this one here, anytime something's sold and a badass Yeti sold in the secondary market, or any NFT for that point, there's a royalty built in. Now, sometimes it's high as 10%, sometimes it's as low as 3%. Usually around 5, 6, 7% is pretty normal. You will see a higher fee if it was like a smaller mint. Let's suppose the mint was 10 XRP. On the resale, you'll see like a higher royalty. So that means if it's sold 15 times, the royalty is paid to the creator. It's not a lot, it's 6%, but again, in perpetuity. And you can think about somebody that owned whatever, a piece of art. Anytime that art changes hand, you get paid on it. So the work that Jeff and I put into this as creators, where there's in perpetuity, it's going to be 6%. OpenSea is getting rid of that. Okay, OpenSea is basically getting rid of all that, and then we can zoom in on the particular properties. On the clan itself, there's only 18% of the blue tribe are mentalists, and all these other properties they have, you can see what percentage of them. 53% have a weapon. And let's see, let me go back one more. And then of course too, you can click on this, and then you can see all the clan names here. So if I want to come in here and I want to see, like, show me all the Titans that are for sale, it'll zip to all the Titans that are for sale, or the Shiver Spines or whatever. But let's suppose I want a Shiver Spine with white eyes. There you go. So you can drill down on exactly what you're looking for, and all of these traits, and the names themselves, they all have unique names and pronunciations. So this is pretty commonplace as far as the traits, the rarities, and what's happening over here on, where was I? Oh my gosh. I'll find it eventually. There you go. So what's happening on OpenSea is they're getting rid of this. So Mark Cuban chimes in, says, not collecting and paying royalties on NFT sales is a huge mistake by OpenSea. It diminished trust in the platform, hurts the industry. And I say this as an OpenSea investor. So, and he's hitting Devin Finzer. I don't know if that's, know who that, yeah, so he invested in OpenSea and he's calling it out, saying it's a huge mistake. He's absolutely spot on. Everybody here, anyone in the NFT, this is another, so anyone in the NFT space that is shocked by this obviously has had their head in the sand for the last year. OpenSea didn't have a choice unless they wanted to lose their market share. Now we need to fix the tech so that royalties can't be avoided. But until then, people don't have to pay them. Sites will always exist that remove creator royalties. It's a flaw in the tech, not in the OpenSea issue. Mark Cuban says, no question, the fact that they can't be enforced across platforms is a problem that needs to be fixed, but the optional royalty approach kills future applications that go beyond collectibles, which is where the most money will be. So this is a very astute observation by Mark Cuban. You think about where we're headed with with NFTs, it's going to go well beyond, yeah, they're collectibles, they're JPEGs, they're images, but what happens when we get into real estate and other things? You want this perpetuity. Let's suppose you sell a real world object, you want that whoever created it, supposedly, for example, I have this, it's a handcrafted wood drinking for whiskey, and it's amazing. But it's handmade. But let's suppose I bought that as an NFT, and as a holder of the NFT, it also comes with the actual object. And let's suppose that object becomes rare because of the wood that was used. And let's suppose that I sell that NFT, and then the object goes with it. Well, the perpetuity, in perpetuity, the actual creator fee percentage would go back to the person who handcrafted that. this is a great way. It's all trapped in the blockchain, but here's the thing, which we'll get into a little bit here. I don't want to rush it to get ahead of this, but what's happening over on Ethereum, even on OpenSea, they have multiple chains over there. Ethereum is still the king. Emi Yoshikawa from Ripple commented and said, on the XRP ledger, automatic royalties for NFTs are enforced at the chain protocol level, and creators are not at the mercy of individual marketplaces. With XRPL, token issuers' rights are protected. This right here is a massive advantage, okay? And what we might see is we may see chains like the XRPL getting far more popular and more people coming into it. And as interoperability between chains sort of blurs the lines, it's not going to matter. If you're using Ethereum, you want to go purchase, there will be a way for you to go ahead and purchase NFTs. But this right here, the point that Emi drives home here is massive, because this is one of the, I remember Jeff and I learning about this from XRP.cafe early days, and this is one of the things they were saying is like, no, it's built in. And like, what happens if somebody sells? Yeah, it's inherently built in at the chain protocol level. So creators aren't worried about a rug pull because of the exchange. And this is a huge point. So this is going to open up a lot of possibility. And again, imagine being the ordinals and some other Blur and some other ones that came along that I think really sort of changed the face of the exchanges or pulling market share. Blur did that token drop. Ordinals, the Bitcoin, the NFTs. So if you think about, they're worried about losing market share, and they're like, screw that, the creator, we don't care. We're not paying it. We're making it optional. To me, that's a mistake. But again, it all comes down to the architecture. The guy talking in that last tweet was not wrong. I mean, he actually nailed it. Hey, it can't be enforced at the chain level, so it's optional. And if exchanges aren't going to do that, then what do you have? And then so further we have Adam from over there at XRP.cafe said, I've seen a lot of marketplaces on other chains controlling or changing the creator royalties, which is a really bad move in my opinion. Definitely against our ethos at XRP Cafe. Even as we branch out to EVM, that's the Ethereum virtual machine. Like I said, when you have the interoperability and you can come over to the XRPL, hooks and beyond, the creator will always be in control. This right here is a great move, and I have a feeling that this could propel potentially an XRPL huge, can move it in ways that we never imagined. Emi then answered Adam's tweet and said, or I should say asked or response, who even knows what the hell that's called. It's becoming increasingly clear that NFT marketplaces are becoming polarized into one of two scenarios, where one, those who focus on creators, right? And if we think about that, focused on the creator, right? Focused on the person that actually put the work in and designed it. Or two, those who are optimized for speculative trading. And the speculative trading is what boosts the secondary market. When we think about the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is really the project that mooned and really showed that, yes, people are willing to pay $6 million for a JPEG, right? And the value rose, but how most of the value rose on that was in the secondary market. So in the secondary market, I don't actually know what the royalty is on the Bored Apes, but let's suppose it's, let's just say 10% to be real, or real simple on this side. So let's say it's 10% on a $6 million sale. Do the math. You can see, it's a nice little payment. So then the next time it sells for 12 million. So another 10% royalty. You can see that is what is keeping the creators alive and able to create and having money coming in every time it changes hands. And now they've done away with this because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses and perceiving a perceived threat from other exchanges coming up. And here we go. Right here is the story I wanted to get. The Yuga Labs. Yuga Labs is the organization behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They slammed OpenSea's shift to optional royalties. Yuga Labs intends to cut ties with OpenSea's Seaport by February of 2024 over OpenSea's shift to a royalty optional model. Expect a lot of other to do the same, right? Because you created an exchange, you wanted people to come on that exchange, and then you cut them at the kneecaps, right? You basically took their feet out and allowing these to change hands and not enforcing that. But again, it all comes down to architecture. And when you can do away with that, where on the XRPL, it's enforced at the chain level. So it doesn't matter. It's built in, it's inherent, and it takes care of that. This is the difference. You know, I'll just get on a little bit of rant here, but this is the difference between thinking through it and doing it right. Apple famously lagged behind a lot of the features that came along in Android. People are like, well, Apple's so innovative, right, Chip? But you know, we had this feature for a while, but they thought about it. And you know, 9 times out of 10, by putting that extra thought and workshopping it, and making sure it was right, and making sure and learning from what was already out there, you're able to build something a little bit better, in my opinion. Just my opinion. You totally disagree with me. But I always felt like the way the copy and paste worked, a lot of the other features, they put a little bit, when they finally refined it and brought it out there, it was a little bit different. When we think about NFTs, the same type of a thing. It's like, you know, if you are able to think about it in the way this amendment was put forth, it was built, and in the initial proposal was with the creator in mind. The creators will have in perpetuity the creator fee. That, you know who designates that? Jeff and I created that. We could have if you put out an NFT for 5 XRP and you want to charge 20% royalty, it'll be on the resale, right? So on the secondary market, because let's suppose then that one becomes that one that you sold for, let's say, bought it for 5 or 10 XRP, starts selling on the secondary market. There's a limited amount. It drives more value, and now it's selling for 100 XRP. So as 100 XRP, the creator could get, it's 10% to get 10 XRP or 20 XRP. So you can see how that works. So a smaller min amount could potentially be a larger. There's a lot of different strategies on how you want to release these. I will say that when we release the White Tribe, hopefully by the end of September, the White Tribe, because it's not as rare as the Blue Tribe, will have a lesser of value as far as what it's going to be on the market for. But the Blue Tribe we put first because the Blue Tribe is very rare as the number is concerned. And so this one here is big because now you've got the monster, the one that really blew up NFTs and put NFTs on the map. A lot of people never heard of an NFT, but they started seeing Bored Apes show up in different places. I remember there was an actress that went on Jimmy Fallon, the late night talk show here, and they were comparing their Bored Apes. I have this Bored Ape, I have this Bored Ape. And all of a sudden that was leaking into the public, the consciousness of the public, and they're like, oh, what the hell's an NFT? What do you mean you bought an ape for $6 million? I don't get it. But it's what now they're backing out. They're like, we're done. It says, for as much of the NFTs have been about users truly owning their digital assets, they've also been about empowering creators. Yuga believes in protecting the creator royalties so creators are properly compensated for their work. Well done. Very happy to see that. And again, you know, as creators in the space itself, you know, a lot of time, energy, and work went into that. You're like, yeah, but people buy them. Okay, but great. But the whole concept of the NFT, it's a small amount. When we see those transactions happening on the secondary market, it's not a lot of XRP. It's a couple here and there. But when they're all minted and they're sold out, and you know which is the rarest one, you have the number one rarest one, and that's going to go for 800 to 1,000. And the next time it could sell for 1,500 XRP, and the next time, right? And as we just had a free, or I would say Unchained Elephants was kind enough to take us along on their mission, and anybody that owned per wallet was gifted a Unchained Elephant. So we're building in some more utility. Right now, the only utility we have right now is that on the XRP, if you own one Badass Yeti, you can get some discounts. If you own 3, you can get a higher discount, 15% off the Badass Yeti's coffee. And if you own 6 or more, which plenty do, you can get 20% off. That was the utility we could build in at this moment. We're working on some other utility and some other things behind the scenes that we'll share when the time is right. The time's not 100% right there, but It's a great how people come in here, like the Informer. This is how I want to spend my time, going into places. You know that crypto is a scam, but you keep spreading it, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Informer. I meant Gary, Patty G. Thank you. We know it's a scam. Yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren. Appreciate that. Love to see that. Yeah, I had to laugh at stuff like that. What is this? Hans Loaded said, Informer, I think the truth is subjective depending on your perspective. There you go. That's how you handle it. But that's all I have today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. Jeff will be back soon. And what can I say? What else can I say? Thank you guys for coming in here, supporting us. A couple different ways you can support us. You can purchase a badass Yetis. A couple different places to get them. You can, if you don't want to spend your XRP, you can also buy it with fiat. Over there on Supermojo, you can buy some badass Yetis coffee. But again, it's great to see how what started off as an NFT project has flourished into an actual product, and hopefully there'll be some more products in the future. But again, that's the way our intention was always to make it and build it around a project and provide value. So that's kind of where we came in. Thank you for that, Mike. Appreciate that. Good show, brother. Thank you so much. Ray Ron, thank you and good night. That's all I have, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Chip. Oh.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.